Well, tonight we're live to tape from home, San Diego, California. Summer is winding down. I think it's the calm before the storm in the world of pinball. And this is episode 21 of Coast to Coast Pinball. Let's go. Thanks very much for listening, for being here, for downloading, for streaming, for whatever you might be doing, listening outside my window, I don't know. This is Coast to Coast Pinball. My name is Nate Shivers, I'm your host. This is a podcast, this is a commentary, and I'm a man out of quarters. It's like August 28th or 29th, I don't quite keep track, I believe it's the 29th, soon to be the 30th. It's Thursday night. Back home in San Diego, I'm home for a few weeks. So expect more info on what's happening in Southern California pinball coming up out of me soon. What's going on? I got home and had some packages waiting for me. Had my LEDs for Judge Dredd. So I put a bunch of them in at once, and it looks awesome. And I just need to get to the really hard to reach ones now. It's kind of a pain. Some of those are really tough, so gotta get the right tools out of the toolbox and dig in there and get all those LEDs in, because it just looks fantastic. So that's been a lot of fun. I've been getting better at Judge Dredd. Admittedly, I'm not very good at that game. I've been really trying to focus. I still want to rebuild the flippers. I need to order those parts because I don't love the way the flippers feel. So I'm going to blame my lack of high scores and bad skill on the flippers for now. Missed my Twilight Zone. Been playing my Twilight Zone a ton, as much as Judge Dredd probably. I still just go back to that game, and it holds my attention like no other. So that's really good. And there's some deals on Craigslist right now. This is summertime. I mean, it's the end of August. It was 90 some degrees out in El Cajon, California, where my company's based today. It was warm. And this is traditionally when prices on pinball games sort of go down. Good time to buy games. I noticed there's some interesting finds on Craigslist locally. There's a space shuttle for a pretty affordable price around here right now. If I had any room, I might consider it. There's some other things. What I think is really funny on the San Diego Craigslist right now, there's somebody who keeps posting that they are looking to buy a South Park pinball machine. Whatever floats your boat, I suppose. But then right after that, for the past week or two, you will see somebody posting a South Park pinball machine for sale. And I don't know if these two don't see each other or are waiting for somebody to call them, or that game isn't in the shape that the dude's looking for. I don't know. It's just kind of funny because I keep noticing that. Everybody's been... I've had literally, I think I've had 7 different emails in the past week or 10 days asking... When's Teresa coming back on the podcast? We want to hear more of Teresa. She sounds fun. So last night, I started to do this podcast. It was kind of late, but I decided, let's start the podcast. Let's go ahead and do it. And I had my notes together, and I was starting to go, and I thought, you know what? It's time for Teresa. So I thought it'd be fun to sort of invite her back to the show, on record. So let's listen in to 24 hours ago to... Nate trying to get Teresa to do the podcast, shall we? Here we go. Hey, Teresa, what's going on?
I'm getting ready for bed.
I think we should do a podcast.
Absolutely not.
But there's pinball to talk about.
Yeah, but it's bedtime. I'm sitting here putting my lip gloss stuff on.
You look pretty good.
Thank you. I don't feel good. You said you were tired.
I was, and then I took a shower and I thought about pinball.
Yeah, no. Listen to one of the other podcasts. They'll make you sleepy.
I've already listened to all of them.
Nate Shivers, no. We need to go to sleep.
But I want to hear your opinion on, important stuff.
I don't want to
the Hobbit playfield. Come on. Well, I'll ask you about the Hobbit.
Okay, you can't pull the Hobbit out because I love Tolkien. That's not...
What did I have in the mail waiting for me when I got home? What was sitting on the doorstep?
3 packages relating to pinball.
What were they? Do you remember?
Yeah, some fancy magazines.
That was called the Pinball magazines.
They were very fancy.
Would you call them big?
Yeah, they were
thick? Why are you laughing?
I can't say on your podcast.
Why not? We're talking about magazines here.
Because I feel like
were they fully fleshed out?
They were.
Yeah.
It's nice.
What else is waiting for me?
Some LEDs for Judge Dredd.
Some what?
LEDs, right?
What's LED stand for?
I have no idea. It's just fancy lights that you put in there to make it brighter.
And did I?
Yeah, it looks good. I'm so tired. Please leave me alone.
What was the third package? Tell me about the third package.
I thought that
was the third package big and thick too?
Are you talking about my carpet?
No.
Oh.
Nobody's gonna know what that meant.
He bought me a really cute classroom carpet.
You're off topic. We talk about pinball on this podcast. Just pinball. This isn't carpet.
I'm so tired.
This isn't Coast to Coast Carpet with Terry. No, Teresa. This is Coast to Coast Pinball.
Just let me.
I'm questioning your dedication right now.
Okay,
What'd you say to me on the phone the other night while I was still in New York?
That I wanted to be on one again.
I'm sorry. In a human voice this time?
That I wanted to be on a podcast again.
Well, your shot is right now.
It's my bedtime. I have to wake up at 5:20. I have back to school night tomorrow. I'm not kidding. I'm serious.
All right. Give me one good pinball-related sentence, and I'll let you off the hook.
Oh, gosh. Give me some sort of topic. Come on.
1960s Gottlieb games. Go.
Oh, in your last podcast, I like listening to you. You talked about Atlantis. Was that 60s?
I think so. I don't remember. I'm not an expert on this. 60s or 70s for sure.
It sounded pretty because it's my two favorite colors, blue and green. It made me want to play that EM.
Hey, there you go. Thanks for joining us tonight. You were on the podcast.
It's horrible.
Good night.
Good night.
So, what can I say? We tried, right? She will be back, I promise. Her going back to school and teaching is wearing the poor girl out. So, we still need to talk about the rest of my trip on the East Coast. I went to a place I'd never been before, so let's dive right into that.
Trip reports.
So after I spent that entire, or most of that Sunday afternoon in Asbury Park, New Jersey, hanging out at the Silverball Museum, I left, and not to leave, but to go play more pinball somewhere else. I drove about 20 minutes north of Asbury Park to a town called Red Bank, New Jersey, and I visited a place called Yestercades. So Yestercades is in like Red Bank, in this sort of up-and-coming area where it's all kind of redone and cute areas. Kevin Smith has his comic store right on the same street as Yestercades. So that's pretty neat. It's kind of a hip area. It's real nice. And Yestercades, it's very clean. It sort of reminded me, a bunch of episodes ago, I went to a place called Mr. Joey's Arcade, or Joey's Arcade, in Coos Bay, Oregon. This felt like the same sort of place. And I walked in, but here, you get a wristband put on you. They print a little wristband out, and they put it on your wrist. And they time how long you're in the property. And then when they scan your wristband on the way out, they charge you based on how long you're in there. And I think it's like $8.50 an hour, $8.75 an hour, right in there with tax and everything. I got charged for 1 hour, and it was just over $9. And there's probably discounts for the time, and I wasn't really paying too close attention. But let me tell you, if you're a vintage retro arcade enthusiast, like video arcade game enthusiast, this is the place to go. Tons of games, and like all the big hot ones. You know, everything from like old Street Fighters to Gorf to, Galaga, all that stuff. Really cool. They did have a really nice selection of pinball machines, and if, Silverball Museum wasn't 20 minutes away, this would be the place in North Jersey, at least on the shore area of North Jersey. But even with Silverball Museum, it's sort of a different experience. It's mostly DMD area games. DMD era games, thank you. So, Yestercades. Let's run down a list of the games. They have them on two different walls, sort of in an L shape. Twilight Zone, Space Invaders, Sorcerer, Hook, X-Files, Addams Family, roller games, the nicest roller games I've ever seen out in the wild. Back to the Future, Bugs Bunny Birthday Ball, Cyclone, Demolition Man, Electra, Pinbot, Gorgar, Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man, The Game Show, F-14 Tomcat, Monopoly. I think I might even be missing one or two. So the newest game they had there's Monopoly, and the oldest they go back to, I guess the oldest game in that would probably be the Sorcerer game, I believe. Maybe Space Invaders. I'm not sure which came first. The games are in good shape. Lots of unlevel games. I notice that that's just a trend out in the wild right now, is people not knowing how to level their games. As I had some major issues with a couple of games like that. But the games are in good shape. It's all set on free play, so you can just kind of go to town. It was fairly busy while I was in there. There was, at least 6 or 7 people playing on those 20 or so games. The thing that bothered me right when I started playing was that the ceiling's really high in the building, which is cool, so it's a nice open feel. But they have lights hanging in the ceiling, and then above the lights are these big square, skylights. So it was sort of overcast in the evening, but the sun was still shining down, and it was glaring off of the glass of all the games, and it was driving me crazy, because not only are you competing with backglass light reflecting on, the actual glass of the game, but also light shining down from above. So sort of not real pinball friendly in the daytime as far as that light shining down and giving you glare, because I literally couldn't see the back half of some of the games I was playing, and I lost lots of balls because I couldn't really judge what was going on, and it's hard to make shots that way. So that's kind of a downside. In the evening, as it got darker outside, I didn't notice that as much. I had a lot of fun, though. I mean, I'm a sucker for the Data East stuff, and I think I've said that before. So, we went through Hook pretty deep on the last episode, and that's because I sat and played Hook a bunch here at Yestercades. They also had a Back to the Future. I'd never played Back to the Future. I'd never even seen the game in person. I thought it was a pretty good game. It wasn't like blow away, oh my gosh, this is a poor man's Twilight Zone. I wouldn't give you that sort of vibe with Back to the Future. Back to the Future gets knocked a lot because they didn't have the license to use the likeness of Michael J. Fox. They did use Christopher Lloyd, though. I believe that is his likeness. So you have this kind of cheesy fake Michael J. Fox on the back glass and the playfield, which is a little weird. But once you're playing, you don't notice it. And the actual layout of the game and the tempo of the game and some of the shots are pretty good. I thought it was fairly entertaining. However, Roller Games was right next to it. And man, that Roller Games was fun to play. Steve Ritchie design, we were talking about it as a going up, going down game, and it's been going up. I think it's been gaining in popularity. The whole, big designer thing is very... Some of their top games, these big designers, the games are priced out of reach. So then I think a lot of people look to what else they built and said, well, hey, I'll bet they have some great elements of their design styles in some of their older games that I might be able to afford, or less popular games, not necessarily just older. So played a bunch of roller games. That was a lot of fun. I liked that game a lot. The cheesiness is part of the charm with roller games for sure. Played Cyclone. Cyclone may have one of my least favorite art packages of all time for a game that's kind of cool. It's in the roller coaster trilogy for Williams. I just don't like the creepy clown's fine. I don't like the playfield with all the just gray sort of asphalt, and it's supposed to be like the fair or a carnival grounds with all the people walking around it, looking at it from top down. I just think it's like they didn't try hard enough to me. I don't know. There could have been something cooler and better with that. I don't ever play Demolition Man on site. I've never cared for that game. It's a wide body. It has the weird little flippers that are up on the gun handles up above. I don't like that. Even with the regular flippers, it's not a game that ever feels good to me, so I skipped that. I did play some more Bugs Bunny Birthday Ball, which I'd played a few months ago somewhere else. That's the game, no right out lane, and that weird reversed flipper up the weird kickback ramp on the left side. Just sort of a bizarre game. But I played it, it'd be a good kids game. Definitely not going to keep me that interested. Played the X-Files finally. I finally got to, experience the filing cabinet. And it's actually not as bad as I thought it would be in person. I still don't like the playfield with the Mulder and Scully faces and the weird bubbly insert looks with the art. But the file cabinet itself is okay. The game's just sort of boring. That's really the problem I had with X-Files. Is it's just kind of dull. Doesn't really do it for me. What else did I play there? I played their Addams Family. and this is like sacrilegious to say, but Addams Family to me feels like a clunky Twilight Zone. It's like I don't ever get the shots going on Addams Family. It's just too congested. Addams Family reminds me of how I feel when I'm playing X-Men. I'm just always afraid of hitting anything to the left side because it's just so much sitting down right on top of that left flipper to me. And I know, biggest selling pinball machine ever, whatever. It's just, I've never really fallen in love with the Addams Family. Me personally. I did go and spend some time on Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man there as well, because I'd never played one of those. I think I've seen one or two, but, you know, the weird kind of configuration of that game where it has the playfield, has the maze gimmick thing in the middle of it. They call that a vid grid maze. Then they have a digital readout score reels in the playfield. And then there's the digital scoring up on the back box, but the back box is separated into like two boxes. Go Google it and look at it. It's just weird how they have a back glass. It's its own separate box from the scoring box. And then the game, the playfield. It's an uncomfortable game for me to play. It feels like it's too small. It feels like it doesn't have any sort of real flow. You know, the skill shot is kind of regarded as one of the toughest skill shots to the point where it's really just almost luck, because you have to sort of just drop this ball in this little inlane thing, which will instantly, I think, start the vid grid mode, the maze mode. And that's the big thing on this game, is this is like early 80s. This game came out in like 1982, and it's a Bally design. And this was them trying to capture the magic of Pac-Man, the video game, and put it into a pinball machine, which made perfect sense. And they built a bunch of these games, over 10,000 of them. And, you know, when you get the maze thing going, you play this little sort of game on this grid where you are trying to cover all the dots before the ghost gets you. And the dots just get covered in, I believe, yellow, and the ghost is a little red dot that moves around. I never did really get going on it. You know, one flipper changes what direction you're facing, and the other flipper moves you in that direction. It just never felt comfortable to me. I don't like, you know, there's a flipper up top that's supposed to hit into these drop targets, and then there's this sort of upper lane area that loops around, and everything kind of has these big round lanes up at the top of the playfield. It's really not a good shot. It doesn't feel like it's easy to do or even really possible, other than just lucky bounces, and that kind of drives me insane about that game. So not a game I would ever want to personally own. It's sort of I see them out there and people get excited about them sometimes. So a lot of people defend them as so much fun and this and that, and there's a lot of nostalgia there to me, but it's not a very good, well put together game, in my opinion, as far as holding up in the modern day. I mean, back then it probably was something pretty neat and pretty amazing to check out, but here in 2013, it's tough to get that excited about Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man. But definitely still fun to, you know, especially when you're in a free play situation, to just play it a couple times to sort of soak in what they were going for, what they were doing. I tell you, Yestercades, very cool place, clean, well put together. If you're into video arcade games, you gotta go do it. If you're in that area of Jersey and you're not going to be down in the Asbury Park area and you're a little farther north, great place to play some pinball. Ton of varieties. You have some A-list games like Addams Family, Twilight Zone, and then you have some, you know, rarities. And then some kind of like niche things. So really, really cool place. Glad I stopped in there. I'll definitely try and make it back sometime. So definitely give Yestercades a look if you're in the area.
Forum static.
There is a post on the Pinside forums right now that I really liked. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's called The Confessional, and I think that's great because this hobby's sort of funny because we can all talk about it on the internet. We can all go out and play games in the wild, but a lot of us have games at home, and it's sort of a private thing in a lot of levels. It's a social hobby if you make it so, but to a lot of people, it's this sort of private thing where you might be the only person who ever plays your game or games, or maybe just you and a few other people. So this guy Swampfire a couple days ago started this thread, and he called it The Confessional, and his post was, and he's confessing stuff, if you hadn't guessed. He types, "I keep Revenge from Mars mostly because it's the perfect size for where it is in front of a doorway." And he's saying that the only reason he keeps that game is because it's like the Pinball 2000 design, so it's short and stubby. I think he's insinuating that he knows it's not a really great game to him, and he doesn't really like it. And if it weren't for just fitting in this area where he can't have a game sitting in front of the door, he'd have ditched it. Kind of funny. He also wrote, when I suck at pinball for several days in a row, I start moving my outlane posts in. I wonder if that's true, if he actually really does it, or if he's just being funny. I tell you, I move my outlane posts in. I want that game to be as forgiving as possible if it's in my place of residence. It's my game, and you are going to have a smaller outlane, darn it, if it's designed that way. I would never drill a new hole or anything like that, but I will definitely move it, where it needs to be. And then his other one was, I put stronger coils in Lord of the Rings because I'm not very good at hitting the ring, Legolas, or Aragorn. I can understand that. I think if I had a game where I was having shot problems and it was all because of the flippers, I might be inclined to do that. If you're trying to, get through the game and progress through a game like Lord of the Rings, which has, lots to do and lots to accomplish, I get that. I don't know if I probably wouldn't ever put anything other than new coils. I might rebuild the flippers, which I'm going to do. I'm actually going to probably rebuild my Twilight Zone flippers too. But I wouldn't ever go purposely buy a stronger coil, I don't think, because that sort of seems like cheating. So, speaking of cheating, the next post is actually by another guy who writes, all my pins are set to 10 balls per game. I don't believe him, but I will say this. A lot of the places I've played recently in the wild had their game set to 5 balls, and that just sort of feels like cheating. And I've actually considered, I'm going to put some Coast to Coast pinball t-shirts together very soon. I've actually already have a couple designs ready, and I really want to put on the back of the shirt, 5 balls is cheating. I don't know. We'll see. That's just me, though. So it's a fun thread. I see some people who are like, talking about certain games. Like, I enjoy playing Popeyes, something on there. Some people got silly and put I like Turtles nonsense. One guy wrote, I prefer No Fear over Medieval Madness. And I will give No Fear a lot of love because I think it's a very underrated game. But it's not better than Medieval Madness. Get out of here. How do you enjoy that more? You crazy. I talk about pinball on Pinside more than I play. I can understand that. So it was pretty interesting. So then it got to me thinking, so what would be my confessions? And I think last episode I talked about Centigrade 37 as being, everyone talks about it as one of their favorite EMs, and I think it's actually my wallpaper of my home computer, the Centigrade 37 art, but I really don't love playing the game. So that's sort of a confession I already threw out there. My other one would be, when I got Party Zone home, I played it for a while, and I quickly realized the thing wasn't tilting very easily. And then as I looked in the game, I realized, oh, there's no tilt bob. And I certainly haven't gone out of my way to go track down a tilt bob for that game. So that's sort of a confession. And I saw some other people mention, what tilt bob in the thread. So I thought that was a lot of fun, a lighthearted Pinside post. And that thread actually has gotten quite long at this point. Because I think we all have little things in there. One that was more recent, somebody posted, I think I like Barry Orsler pins better than Pat Lawler pins. Interesting. Very interesting. So I thought that was fun. Another thread that pops up still is that people had ordered the Pinball Magazine number 2, the second one, and I actually had ordered the 2-packs. I'd never got the first one, so I went ahead and ordered the 2-pack of Pinball Magazine 1 and 2, and just got them. They were actually waiting for me when I got back. Jonathan... it's Houston, I forget how to pronounce his last name. It's his project, and it's just fantastic. And to me, it's like less magazine than it is more of like a periodical. And Jonathan's been on most of the major pinball podcasts and given these really great in-depth interviews. And he puts obviously a lot of time, energy, and work into this. They're expensive, they're not cheap, and I think they're worth it. I'm like halfway through the Roger Sharp feature, and it's so detailed and interesting, and I love all the sidebars. If I could give one criticism to this, and I haven't really gone through 2, because I'm one of these people, I want to do it in chronological order. I want to read through the entire first one before I even open number 2. I would love to see more short stories interspersed with this giant feature. He's got this giant feature on Roger Sharp. And flipping towards the back of this episode, I did see a shorter story on Pacific Pinball Museum here in California, which I'm excited to read. And I think there was also a feature on Pinside, and Robin and his brother who run Pinside. So I like that because one of the things I do like about like just a magazine, literally a magazine, is that I can grab it quick and read something fast and digest some stuff fast. So I think Jonathan's got this really interesting, design here because he puts out this like in-depth, deep feature. I can't even call it an article. It's like a feature essay on a subject, and then he's filling out so far in issue 1 some things around it. I would love to see some other little features and articles. Sort of maybe in the beginning there would be more short features. That would be awesome. And in fact, I'll just say it now. If Jonathan wanted to take contributions, your host here might be interested in writing a little something up for the Pinball magazine. Maybe. I was a journalism major. So, just a thought. But it's actually pretty awesome. It's so beautiful. It's a collector's item for sure. I think he's actually out of print on issue number 1 right now. So, if you don't have one, you can't have mine. Because this is pretty cool. I'm so excited he's doing these. And he's talking about 2 to 3 issues per year. So I'm really excited to see these come out. And it's a great layout. I can't say enough good things about Pinball Magazine. So way to go, man. I really, really appreciate this hard work and effort. And the year was 2000. So let's think about the year 2000. Sort of dreary, dark, bad days in the pinball world, right? Williams was gone. It was over. Stern stood alone. And we've talked about some years like that before. But 2000 was really a defining moment because this is also when Stern's first designs as Stern Pinball really came out. At least one of them. One of the others, as we'll talk about in a minute, was sort of a redesign of a redesign, if you will. But think about the year 2000. We'd all, if you were around then or, really old enough to know, I won't assume that you're all my age, but the Y2K thing and all that nonsense had gone on. It was sort of a weird feeling going into a new millennium, to me at least, because I'd grown up knowing that I was going to see that date, and it was an interesting time. But pinball was kind of dead. If it hadn't been for Gary Stern, buying out Sega and having a dream to do what he was going to do, there would have been literally no pinball machines, because in the year 2000, there were only 2 pinball machines released to the public. And the first one was in January, and it was by Stern, and it was really Stern's first attempt at doing their own game. This wasn't a leftover from Sega. This was their own, and it was called Striker Extreme. So it's a theme based on soccer. And I don't know this for sure, and I wasn't there, and I don't have any inside information, but I'm assuming Stern was really looking at the big picture of pinball and trying to find a way to appeal to the masses. And how do we make games that will have not just, people who've traditionally, bought games to put them in arcades, put them on route, put them in, stores to play, but how can we appeal to more than that? And soccer was a pretty good idea on some levels because it's a worldwide phenomenon. It's a sport that's the most popular sport in the world, as they say. And if you look at Striker Extreme on the playfield, you have all the country flags there. This was actually really targeted to be sort of a worldly type game. They screwed up the English flag, and they actually posted a Union Jack, which is the flag of the United Kingdom, combination of 3 flags, and they didn't post the English flag, but that's okay. I see what they were going for. And this game will immediately draw comparisons to Bally's World Cup Soccer, and that's, I think, what kind of hurts this game a little bit, because World Cup Soccer is sort of one of those B-level games that those who own a few pinballs and have played a lot of them have really come to appreciate as a pretty fun game with some great feature sets and really cool ideas. Well, Striker Extreme, it is okay, and it has its own, a couple features in there. It has a goalie in the back of the game. You're trying to shoot the drop-down targets and then get balls past the goalie. But I don't know that it's done as well as the more simple version of how World Cup Soccer does it. I think the World Cup Soccer one might even be more fun. I think the game feels a little cheap, maybe. Stern in the year 2000, they were sort of finding their way. They were trying to, keep costs down. John Borg was designing games for them. He has a John Borg design. And there's a certain plastic feelness to them. It sort of feels light. If you're thinking about the Williams games that came out just a year or two before this, and then you go grab a Striker Extreme, there's definitely a step down in quality that I think you can feel. Striker Extreme is not highly thought of in the modern era. It's a game that you can get very inexpensive, way below $2,000. I mean, I've seen these games sell on the internet for $800 or $900 in really good shape. So it's not a popular game. In fact, it's ranked number 267th on the Pinside top 1, 2, 300, whatever you want to call it. And I've played it briefly, and most of what I know about it is going off reading articles and looking at the web. It wasn't something that caught my attention at all. They rethemed it later in the next year, in November of 2001. It was rethemed as the NFL game, and so that was another attempt at sort of playing to a bunch of different buyers, because with the NFL game you could order your pin customized with any of the pro teams that you wanted on the back glass and everything. So I kind of see what they're going for, and Gary Stern actually cites this game as a failure of a original theme that failed for them, and one of the reasons he won't do original themes now, which I think is sort of silly, because I think it has nothing to do with the theme. I think a really good game that had a soccer theme would do okay nowadays. We've talked about it recently on the podcast here. I don't know that sports themes are ever going to be that successful, though. I think you sort of cut your fan base down a bit when you go sports. So the other game that came out later in 2000, also John Borg design, is currently the number 171st ranked game in the Pinside Top 200, is Sharky's Shootout. Now, Sharky's Shootout is actually sort of an updated version of the classic game 8-Ball Deluxe. And 8-Ball Deluxe is a pool game, a pool-themed game, and so Sharky's Shootout, pool is in, the game, billiards, pool. And pool games came out in the 70s and into the 80s all the time. There are a lot of pool games out there, obviously, and 8-Ball Deluxe is one of the good ones. To me, it was sort of famous for the big row of bank of drop targets on the right hand side, and I liked the progression of this game more so than some of the other pool games out there. I actually can lose count sometimes how many pool games are out there. They blur together to me a little bit, but 8-Ball Deluxe is one that I do appreciate, and so this is an updated version of that. They were playing it safe a little bit at Stern. I think they were looking to rekindle that vintage pinball spirit, and pool was a great idea in their heads at this time. And plus, they used a basic layout that has already been proven, a game that had a high production run. And, they did a few different changes, obviously. The game was updated quite a bit. In the original 8-Ball Deluxe, in the upper left part of the playfield, there's a row of drop targets to then get to a target in the back, kind of like you see on Metallica, with the row of targets to get back to the cross. And they replaced that with a ramp, because there weren't a lot of ramps in games in the early 80s when 8-Ball Deluxe came out. So that got replaced with the ramp. There's this big 8-ball in the back right-hand section of the playfield, which plays sort of like a mystery magic 8-ball, where you hit that shot, and I believe there's 8 different sort of prizes you can collect from that. So they had some, modern features. I actually have a soft spot in my heart for this game. The game has the famous female pool champion, the Black Widow. I think her name's Janet Lee on the back glass. But the gameplay, you're playing pool, and there's 2 ways you can play, 8-ball or 9-ball, and you're trying to either hit all the drop-down targets and then hit the 8-ball in, or hit them all in order and then hit the 8 and the 9 in order and play 9-ball. And what you do is you kind of progress through the game by beating each of the different players. And Sharky's one of the players. You're trying to beat Sharky at Sharky's Shootout. There's a dude named Tex. He's like the Texas pool hustler. There's Dr. Wood, who is a mystery woman, I believe it says on the playfield. And she's a voluptuous lady. Then there's some alien. You actually play an alien. And there's some other dude. I think his name is Styx. And then after you beat all of them, you play the Black Widow. It's sort of like the wizard mode. It's not all that hard to get through, to be quite honest. And I believe you can change the settings in this game from like moderate to hard to very hard. And if you read reviews of it, you'll often read it's fairly easy to do. It's easy to keep the ball going. Not a bad looking game. I actually think it's a very attractive game, especially for what Stern was doing at that time period. It did have some interesting stuff going for it, and Stern was really trying. You could tell they were an energetic company with ideas, because if you will think back to that time period, and I was in a lot of bars and clubs at that time, because I was playing in bands, and I was actually touring the country in bands at the time. One of the big things in clubs was Golden Tee golf arcade machines. That was a big thing you'd see in almost every bar had a Golden Tee golf game. And then eventually the Golden Tee games were linked into like a tournament mode where you could like post your scores against other people around the country, sort of like linked boards. Linked games, excuse me, not boards. And they did that with Sharky Shootout. There was an optional tournament package you could buy in addition to just the pinball machine that consisted basically of like a little modem and a regular dial-up phone connection that would dial you into the tournament settings. And it was a closed game where you played your own game and got your own score, and then that game posted, and I guess the idea was like a nationwide tournament type thing. I don't believe it ever took off the ground, and I certainly don't recall ever hearing about them linked up. If you played a Sharky Shootout on location and knew they were linked up, to the tournaments and could explain that to me better, please email me and let me know how that worked, because I know on their flyer that was a big thing, is they teamed up with the makers of Golden Tee Golf, and that was going to be their thing. And they were trying to do something different other than just build cool games. They were trying to build something that would create excitement in the in the operator sense, in the bars, in the clubs. They were trying to rekindle what pinball was. So I hats off to them. They also used an interesting feature on this game that they called, I'm blanking on what they call it, but it's like post saves. I think that's actually what they call it, is post save feature. And what it was, there's two little white posts at the top of either out lane, and then in the center drain lane there's like a big post, sort of like the Champions Pub post, but you could control them. And at the beginning of each ball, I believe you got one per side, and there was a second set of buttons below your flipper buttons that were your post save buttons. So if your ball was headed towards the right out lane, you could hit that button and this post would shoot up out of the play field and keep the ball from going down the right out lane. Same thing on the left. Now you could hit both of them at the same time and pull up the center drain, I believe. I don't even think I knew that this was there last time I played this game, or didn't remember it, so I never did it. And I know there's actually a sort of a hidden air ball shot, where if you time it right, you can actually pop the ball out of the air with the right post and into the shooter lane and get like a 5 million point air ball award. So that's kind of neat. So there were some things going for it. So out of the two games Stern released, I think they were on both of them sort of looking like, how do we broaden our reach? How do we get to a lot of people and create excitement? I don't know that either of these games at their core were very successful or timely, obviously by their ranking. Both of these games can be had very cheap. There's actually a video of a couple of Sharky Shootouts on YouTube done with all LEDs that look pretty good. Sort of enticing, attractive looking games. But I don't think the build quality was really there yet. And the art packages were just okay at best. Although I think Sharky Shootout has a better art package than Striker Extreme. So, interesting time for pinball. And it's going to be fun going through some of the years where things picked up a little bit. And I used the year 2000 right now because we are in the lull of the year. It's summertime. Things seem a little slow to me right now. But overall, I think the industry is in a good spot. Expo's coming. We got some new games coming. We got things happening. It's a good time. So just remember how bad it was at one point and how far we've come. And go check these games out if you ever see them. Definitely throw a quarter in here or there just for the fun of it. We'll empty the mailbag next episode. We're 21 episodes in. The listenership grows. I love it. I appreciate everybody who sends me emails. Some of them are real short and sweet. The Australian contingent has risen. I had a rash of emails from Australia this week, which was awesome. I appreciate it. We're going beyond the coast just of North America. That's pretty great. So thank you guys. And I would also like to thank all the podcasts out there who've said very kind things about the show and been friendly. We are a small little community of pin geeks and in a niche hobby. So I like the idea that we're all sticking together in this and enjoying each other's product and whatnot. So that's going to put 21 to bed, so we'll see you soon on episode number 22. If you'd like to get a hold of me, you can email me directly at coast2coastpinball@gmail.com. You can also go to our website, which is coast2coastpinball.com. We have a Twitter at C2C Pinball. That's C, the number 2, C Pinball. And there's a Facebook page also. So until we speak again, have some fun out there. Take care.
Where you will be in the year 2000?